Earth is home to many creatures. Some may even consider a few of them monsters. But what of those more elusive and hidden creatures? The ones we just can't seem to find. Welcome to Monday Morning Monsters. Cryptozoologist and paranormal researcher Barnaby Jones talks about the unknown, mythical, undiscovered, and unidentified creatures from around the world, and the people who have seen them, look for them, and research them. Hear from witnesses about their encounters, as well as renowned names in the field about their work and research. Barnaby is the founder and lead investigator for Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society based in Wisconsin. CAPS travels across Wisconsin and beyond looking for connections between different phenomena and how they can all be connected. Now, your host of Monday Morning Monsters, Barnaby Jones.
Good morning, monsters. We are a week out from Christmas. I know it seems like, it was a long way away, and this year has just kind of flown by for us and our team and everything, but we're almost there. And that means that next week, December 26th, we do not have a live show for Monday Morning Monsters. So this is actually going to be the last live show of the year. And we will be back January 2nd, so don't you worry. Joining me on today's show, though, he is our second only person to be on the show twice. So Shitan Noir was joining us twice. She was on the very first episode, and she was on the cryptozoology panel for Halloween, as well as today's guest. I want to welcome to the show. Welcome back, Rich.
Thanks for having me again, and Merry Christmas to everybody.
Definitely. Merry Christmas to you. So you are making your second appearance on the show, and I wanted to give you an actual episode to come on and tell us all about the work that you do in Upper Michigan and everything that you got going on, because I know that you were just part of that show and only had a little bit of little time to talk. So go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us about your team, and let everybody know who you are.
I'm Rich Meyer. I'm the founder of the Upper Peninsula Bigfoot Sasquatch Research Organization. I started the organization in 2013. I got into Bigfooting by accident. I found out my dad passed away in 2011. I found out that the entire time we were hunting and fishing as I was growing up, that we were out looking for Bigfoot. I didn't realize it. I just knew we hunted and fished in weird places way off the beaten path where we never saw any other people. So my mom actually is the one that said, well, yeah, you remember your dad saying there's something else out there. She's like, that was the something else. So after I started to think about it, I went, okay, that's what's going on. So I started to look around for reports in the UP because that's where I was living or where I do live, and started looking for reports. Couldn't find anything dedicated to the UP and northern Wisconsin. So I started my own, and now we're 3,500 strong, I believe, on Facebook as far as followers go to the groups page. And then we've got the UP Bigfoot conference page, I think is another 1,500 or 2,000. I haven't looked in a while to see what we were at for followers. So it's kind of snowballed and gone from there. I've added team members. We have 7 team members across the UP and a couple in Lower Michigan. We have a lot of different people we reach out to and talk to, CAPS being one of them. If I have something in your area, I'll let you guys know. So that's kind of us in a nutshell.
Awesome. So let's back up to your childhood with your dad and stuff. Did you going out hunting and fishing and all that, do you remember ever having any weird things happen that you can attribute now to what would be Sasquatch?
There were times where I'd be sitting in a cedar swamp bow hunting, perfectly calm day, and I'd hear full-size trees come down. I'd get the deer it was like they knew where I was, and they would walk up and stand right under the tree stand, and then constantly be watching over her shoulder and take off on a dead sprint when we heard a stick break. from back there. Not the normal stick breaks, deer stomps, deer blows, then kind of bounces off 3 times, and it would be stick breaks, they're gone. shot out of a cannon, gone. So
Now, did your dad ever make any comments about that? Like saying like, "Oh, did you hear that?" or like point it out that way, or?
he would point out like owls that didn't quite sound right, coyotes that would go off, and then this other noise that was off in the distance, and be like, I don't know quite what that is. But that he never, like I said, he never said Bigfoot or Sasquatch. It was always just there's something else in the woods with us.
Do you ever think that he had a sighting and that's why he was out there?
The more I think about it, the more I believe something happened to make him believe what he did. He just didn't want to say it. I know he saw the Patty film at one point in time, but he never really brought it up. But any free time he had, that's what we were doing. We were hunting or we were fishing somewhere. So
that's awesome. I'm not a very big outdoors person, like growing up, in that I never went camping, and I always said, to anybody that they're like, "Oh, do you ever go camping?" I'm like, the only reason I'm going to go camping is if I'm going bigfooting. That's the only way you're going to get me out in the woods. And now that's where I am. So yep. I guess I was right. The only way you're going to get me out in the woods and go camping is if we're looking for Bigfoot. So,
yep. Well, and that's, people ask all the time. They're like, "Well, what's it like being on an expedition?" It's basically camping with a purpose. Mm-hmm. You go out to look for something and see if you can elicit a response from them. That's not, a lot of times people are gun shy of going on an expedition with somebody or asking someone to do an expedition. And you're camping with a purpose. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to have a good time camping for 3 days to a week.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what they always say. If you go out looking for Bigfoot, you're always going to be disappointed. If you go out into the woods to have a good time with friends, you're always going to have a good time. And maybe you'll see a Bigfoot. So or hear one or whatever. So, yep. Well, that's the same with any of this stuff, paranormal, Bigfoot, all that. If you go there with people that you enjoy hanging out with and you go to have a good time, it's going to be a memorable experience and you're going to enjoy it. Whereas if you go out specifically for those things. So,
yep.
Very good. So let's talk about your team. So what do you guys typically do? Do you guys go out on your own expeditions or do you just follow reports?
We do a little bit of both. I've got the Facebook page, obviously, that we get reports through. I am a member of the BFRO, so I get reports through there as well. Most of the members of the team are either investigators or volunteers for the BFRO. And even as an investigator, you're still just a volunteer. You just have the title that they gave you because you've been approved by the higher ups to call yourself a BFRO investigator. So we'll get reports through there. We'll run them concurrently with our own reports. Sometimes, like I just took a report from a guy contacted me through my Facebook page, and he had a Class A sighting on the Days River Trail by Gladstone. Once he contacted me and I talked through everything with him, I said, "Look," "this is a great report that supports 5 or 6 other reports that I have in the BFRO that are all published on their site." I said, "Do you mind if I take all your information and forward it over so that we can put it on the database there?" And he said, "Oh, no problem, no problem." Now, that's not always the response I get. Sometimes I get, no, I don't want anybody to know this happened. I don't. So I ran the investigation through the UP BSRO first, went through, looked at the location, was out there, visited. I'm familiar with the area because it's one of our areas of research that we're in quite often. Then we put all that information into the BFRO website. He filed his report with them, put me as his investigator. I took all my information I had, added it to what he had put down himself, and we've sent it in to be published. So we're just waiting to see it pop up on the website now. Then a couple times a year, we usually get together, and all of the people that are on my team, we will get together and we will do something somewhere in the UP. It's been another one of those places where we go all the time, which is just south of the Seney Wildlife Refuge the last couple of years. And we camp. I'm usually there on Wednesday. We camp right straight through until Sunday, and everybody packs up and goes home on Sunday. So we've had mysterious lights in the woods. We've had some people have Class A's. We've heard howls. We've recorded howls. We found prints. So it's, like I said, it's a combination of both. We'll run reports on our own. I run reports on my own all the time. If I get something spread out through the UP, I call one of them and let them know what's going on and give them all the contact info and let them run with it. So.
Very interesting. Yeah. I think it's important to point out, like you had said there too, that when people file these reports to you, they want to tell somebody, they want to get that information out to somebody that can use it and do something with it. But a lot of times these people that give us the reports and stuff don't want that public knowledge out there, either be it for ridicule of, they don't want people to, think bad of them or that they're crazy, or because a lot of times, like one of your recent cases I know was it's private property. And when these people come out there and, the average person may not, truly respect private property or anything. And they think, well, if Bigfoot's out there, I'm going to go look for him. And that's another reason why people just don't want that as public knowledge. So.
Yeah. Yeah, we run into that where it's private property and they're like, I don't want a bunch of crazy people pulling in my driveway. And we're like, okay, we understand that. And with the BFRO's website and their database that they have, some of them have full disclosure as far as where it is and location details, right down to longitude and latitude. As an investigator, I can block a lot of that and I can make it so your name doesn't show up on there.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a lot easier for me to let them house the database than to do it myself. So.
Yep, very interesting. I know with on my website we have a map of sighting reports and stuff for Wisconsin that I try and keep updated with the stuff that I get. And there are some that I do put, like you said, the GPS, this is where it happened. And some of them, there's just a pin dot on the city. Like it was near here. And then that's all you're going to get because, that it helps feed the database. And that's super important to know where these locations are and where there's hotspots. But at the end of the day, people don't want people like us just pulling up on their property because you look around the state and there's places like a lot of these paranormal hotspots. And like Witches Road or stuff like that, Paradise Road and stuff down in southern Wisconsin. And people are so sick of these paranormal investigators and researchers and stuff just driving up and down these roads hoping for something to happen. And a lot of people get, hit or injured by going and doing this stuff because they're out there and standing in the middle of the road, doing these investigations, and a car comes around the corner and takes them out.
Yeah.
Here's a good idea. This is maybe offer to use a pen name or initials. And a lot of the times I think we do have that in some of our things. But
the reports I take, if somebody's willing to let me publish the report, but they don't want their name attached, I usually don't even use initials. I just say the witness or the experiencer, something like that, so that it's general. They can't tell man, woman. They don't have initials to go off of. They can't, because with the amount of programs out there, like I use Onyx Hunt Maps, and I log all of I've got everything that I do logged on Onyx Hunt Maps as far as where I've taken a report and been boots on the ground. I don't even want their initials close to it because if you blow it up enough and you have the right subscription, you can get all the landowner information. So
I have found a lot of times, this is what I'll say too, though, is if you are a decent researcher and investigator, a general description of the area you can find. Like if you really cared to find out a lot of these things, I've tracked down a lot of there's stories on like Dogman Encounters Radio and Sasquatch Chronicles and stuff, because I live in Wisconsin. If there's a story from Wisconsin, I've pinpointed where that was, and it's not that hard to figure out if you really dedicate the time. But And that shows you too how much, if you're willing to go that distance just to figure that out, that you're probably not going to be the one to trespass on private property and do that kind of stuff too. But,
yeah, I've found some on private property through old reports on private property, and I've looked to see if there's state land or accessible CFA land next to it or close to it, and I've hit the state and the CFA, but that's why I use Onyx Hunt Maps. Is when I'm walking through the woods, I have it track me, and I watch the property lines to make sure I'm not getting on somebody else's property.
That's very important. Very important. I like to make sure that people listening and the other researchers, that's why I'm making this such a point, is because I want to show people that, when we're going out there, we are respectful, and that, we're not trespassing or, going on private property and stuff to try and track this stuff down. But at the same time, these, every dot on that map is important. And I would think that at this point, you're what they call a knower or a believer.
I have to classify myself as a knower. Okay. I haven't had that Class A sighting where I can say, yes, that was a Bigfoot. But I've seen eye glow, and I say eye glow, not eye shine, because it was completely dark, no outside light, overcast night, and I watched two eyes light up on a hill across a little gully from us, and then go out and then light back up, and then silhouetted something walking across the top of a ridge. So I've had that. I've had knocks that have been real close. I've had vocalizations that are within a football field. So I have to say that I'm a knower, not just a believer anymore.
Awesome. Yeah. So with that being said, looking at the fact that, we know these things exist, I've had experiences. I haven't seen them, like you said, either. I've seen them through thermal.
Yep.
And I've been very close. I've been growled at by these things in the woods, and I felt the ground shake of them walking, but I have not had the opportunity to see one with my eyes yet. But at that point, it's no longer a matter of going out and trying to see, well, do they exist? Are they real? Now, every map point that we get is helping us understand when and where these things are.
Yep. Travel patterns.
Food sources, locations, if they're moving to a certain area because of a food source at a certain time of the year and stuff like that. So in your research up there, have you noticed any of those patterns? Have you noticed where they're traveling or how big of an area a certain group might live in?
I've got clusters of sightings throughout the UP, and the clusters are showing me where they've been, I guess, and then the changes that happen as things develop. Like right near Escanaba, I've got a cluster of them just south of the airport, from a cemetery to another road that would let you access the lake. A couple of years ago, they did a bunch of logging that made a new cluster to the south further. They did some development around and put in a industrial park around the airport. And when they did that, they cut off one of the wooded thoroughfares that they were running and just moved it over. Well, they just moved around it, but now my sightings happen a little further south than where they were. So, and the same thing, the deer pattern moved with them. So they move. I think they're following their food. I think that's why I get the clusters that I do and where they're at, because that's one of the first things I look for when I go to a sighting is, okay, is there food here for them? Or is this a spot? Is this a choke point between two big stands of woods where they can move back and forth? And that's why people are seeing them right here. So
that's fascinating. I really appreciate that you can see that they've, shifted because of land development and stuff like that. That's really good data. That's good information right there. Yep. Yeah. You're welcome. Well, good work.
If you can get it to work, because I can never get it to work right for me, on the BFRO's page, they've got a overlay for Google Maps. And you can set that by date. So you could hone in on Wisconsin, like where you're at and where you're going to go for a weekend, and you can set up your dates in 5 or 10 year increments and then kind of scroll through it and watch them pop up as they do. Or you can just start extending your end date out and watch it populate. And you can do that same thing that I'm doing with Onyx for my own stuff. You can do it with everything that's in their database for that area.
That's cool. That is cool. I haven't played with that. Yeah.
I didn't for a long time. And like I said, I couldn't get it to work forever. But once you get it to work and you realize how it works, if you're going to if I go to a spot where I'm like, well, this looks like a spot for me to go, I'll do some research. I'll look at it on topographic maps. I look at it on land development maps. I'll jump into like the county clerk's office and look at development over the last couple of years. Then I'll overlay that map on there. Okay, so this is where they were, and then this happened, so they moved here, and I'll decide it'll be 3-4 weeks of me doing stuff like that before I'll decide if I'm actually going to go camp there for a weekend.
That's awesome. That is really good. Now I lost my train of thought. It's gone. What I like is that I started this whole thing with my research from ground zero, because, there's so many people that have come before me, and so much research that's been done on all the topics that CAPS covers. But when you pick up somebody else's work and run with it, you're not really learning anything. You're standing on the shoulders of giants and going from there. Yep. And when we started ours, I started off as nothing. I started off with just, hey, this is a great ape that's out in the woods. Is it an orangutan? Is it a gorilla? How does that match up? And et cetera, and I moved on. But where I'm going with this is I started taking sighting reports in Wisconsin, and I pinpointed all the stuff on my maps and stuff. And then I look at the BFRO website, and it's really interesting because all of my reports are in the same hotspots that they already had. So that, to me, that just shows that, here's the BFRO that has all this information. They're getting reports from all over. And here is me, who's taking personal reports out in the field from people that contact me, and all of our data is lining up to the same locations. And if these things didn't exist, or if, something else was going on, it shouldn't line up that pretty,
Right. Yeah. It gives you validation on your own research. And that's kind of like what I did. When I started, I wasn't even looking for Bigfoot. I was looking for something else in the woods. That's just what my dad called it. And after he passed in 2011, I did 2 full years of research on my own. And a lot of it was in my backyard at my old house. Because 3 o'clock in the morning, I'd get the weird cow moo from the middle of a cedar swamp. Well, yeah, there was a dairy farm 3/4 of a mile down the road. I knew the farmers. I could call them at 3 o'clock in the morning because I knew when they were getting up to milk cows, and ask them, hey, do you guys have a cow that's out? They'd check their RFID tags and everything else and go, no, everybody's accounted for. Everybody's in the pens. Nothing going on. And the closest pen to me was not the birthing pen. I forget what they called it, but it was all the cows that were close to being able to give birth. They'd be like, no, then, and that one, they're like, fences are all together and held up and ready to go. So I'm like, okay. And I started to log that stuff, and I first put it out of my mind, then I started to log it afterwards. I'd find a half a cat in my yard because there was barely a lot to have my house on the old property that I lived on. Somebody had laid wood and then dumped a bunch of dirt over the top of it to build a lot. So when I cut my grass, I'd go from nice cut grass to 3-foot tall cattails and swamp grass. In one corner where you couldn't see it I lived on a corner, basically it was 18 acres on the corner of 2 roads. On one corner of that lot where I cut, you couldn't see it from the house because the garage was in the way. There were no windows on the back of the garage. You couldn't see it from the main paved road because there was a line of trees it was mostly cedars that were in between you and that. I'd cut the grass and I'd find, like I said, a half a cat, a half a raccoon. I'd find a deer. They were never there long enough to smell. And it wasn't like something dragged them in and left them there. And it was always the same spot. There's too many coincidences there for it to not be something bigger that could pick it up and carry it.
Uh-huh.
So I started with that, and then as I started to go back in the woods, I found trees that were weaved together. It actually looked like they were braided. There was a big archway that was braided together from under the water where it was to the top of the arch was 7 feet, and then it was about 4 feet wide. So there's pictures of that somewhere on my Facebook page. So, but like I said, I always had that sense of being watched, followed. I started in my backyard there, and then I started to document things around it, and then just my circle kept getting bigger and bigger, and that's when I decided, all right, I need to see if there's more reports, and that's when I started the Facebook page. But it was 2 years on my own. I didn't read a Bigfoot book. I didn't watch the Patty film. I didn't reach out to anybody else for that full 2 years. And then when I did, it's like, oh, this happens all the time around here.
Mm-hmm.
So
while we're on that topic, what is your Facebook page for everybody?
it is facebook.com/UPBSRO. And I changed it to the initials shortly after doing it because I realized I put too many words in my name.
Yep, that's like ours is Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society, and I got Wisconsin Caps because Caps was already taken. Okay. And but I do also own Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society.com, and it just links back to that page. But I'm like, yeah, nobody's gonna remember to click this. They're not gonna go to that.
Yep.
Yeah. It exists. Completely understand. All right. Well, I would like to continue our discussion on your tree structures and stuff, but we are going to take a quick break here for station identification and some cool stuff that's out there. So we'll be right back with more Rich. And if you guys have any questions for Rich about Bigfoot in the Upper Peninsula or lower Michigan as well.
Yeah, Lower Michigan as well.
Lower Michigan, well, Upper Wisconsin. Feel free to throw them in the comments on whatever platform you're watching, and we'll pull them up and get those answered for you. And we'll be right back after this.
Want to keep up with the latest at the station? How about catch up on your favorite shows on the go? Download the free WLTK-DB mobile app on the App Store and Google Play. Watch, listen, and shop right from the palm of your hand. The WLTK-DB mobile app. The truth is here and now. Get yours today.
All right, guys, we are back here on Monday Morning Monsters. I want to remind everyone that there will be no show for Monday Morning Monsters next week. We're taking a break off for Christmas, and we will see you in the new year on January 2nd's episode. And I am here with Rich, our guest from the Upper Peninsula Bigfoot Sasquatch Research Organization, correct?
Correct.
Awesome. I was afraid I was going to mess that up because I don't have it written anywhere here. So that was all me. You're welcome. All right. So we're going to talk about stick structures, but we have a question here. I want to go to that. And I did want to bring up part of that as well. She asked, do you think that the dog man and Bigfoot are two completely different species?
I do. And that I guess the reason that I think they're two different species is, one, let's look at leg structure. Most of the time when you hear about a dog man, it is the backwards bending knees, just like a regular dog. Where Bigfoot are the forward bending knees. So that's one. Two would be the snout versus no snout, placement of the ears. Dogmans are on top of their head, Bigfoot on the side, and they're small. You can't see them usually, unless you're real close.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think they're two completely different species. I've been seeing more and more that they usually aren't in the same areas, or if they are, it's at different times. So I've got a couple different places up here where we've got some dogman sightings and Bigfoot sightings, but they're on opposite ends of the year. So like dogman's there in the winter and Bigfoot's there in the spring or maybe the summer. So
very cool. Yep. She agrees. She was thinking there were two different things. And then she has a follow-up question here. Do you think that dogmen are aggressive or more aggressive?
From everything that because of course, after I started getting dogman reports, I had to research it a little bit. Everything I've seen, they seem to be a bit more aggressive, but I don't have any reports of actual attacks or anyone being completely threatened. But it's always I feel threatened whenever I talk to a dogman witness. It's I felt threatened. I felt like it looked into my eyes and into my soul. With Bigfoot witnesses, it runs from I don't really it pointed in a direction so that I could get out of the woods to it just kind of didn't care that I was there. But I haven't taken a report of it threatened me. I felt threatened. It tried to make me run away. So
I think that a lot of the two sides to this is, I really hate to say it, but the fact of you only get accounts from survivors.
True.
Yeah. I mean, and that's not to say or discredit any of this, because there's more. There are so many accounts of Bigfoot being, kind of a gentle creature that just wants to be left alone, wants you out of its area, has to coexist. Because if these things were aggressive, you'd hear more about it and there'd be more, interaction of, there'd be a lot more of that. And then with, even the dogman and stuff too. But with the dogman, like you had said that they were more threatened and stuff. When you're out there in the woods and you encounter one of these things, your first thing is, what the heck is that? It doesn't exist. It doesn't belong here. And that sets off this fear trigger in your mind. And I think that may be why people are feeling this sensation of just the unknown. Okay.
Yeah,
You agree. Good. All right. So when you were looking at these, and I know obviously you're the Bigfoot Sasquatch Research Organization,
yep.
But do you get a fair amount of dogman reports as well?
We get a handful of dogman reports. I probably get, I don't know, 9-10 Bigfoot reports to every one dogman report that I've gotten. The dogman reports I've gotten are way more clustered than my Bigfoot reports.
Really?
Yep.
Is there a certain area of the state that people should avoid for dogman then? If you don't want to find one, I guess.
I guess if you don't want to find one, I would stay away from the Randville to Ishpeming area through there, where the government ran their ELF project, which was extreme low frequencies.
Okay.
That there's a big cluster of dogman reports through there. So it doesn't follow, like a lot of the Bigfoot reports that I have kind of follow roads and highways and things like that. These dogman reports are in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
you're still following like some logging roads and things like that, but you'll be trying to get to where one of them is, and you'll just come to the end of a road and there's nothing there. And now you have to traipse through the woods to get to it. So
that's really interesting that you point out the Dogman and the government testing area and stuff, because that's one of the things that you hear a lot of too, is that these things are always around like military bases. Down in Wisconsin here, we have Dogman sightings right at the name escapes me. Fort McCoy, I think, is the big military station down by us here. And there's a couple. One witness saw it standing up on like the stone arch gateway of the fort. So that's really interesting that these things are being seen by military stuff.
Yeah.
Fort McCoy. Yep. Thank you. Fort McCoy. Yep. See, it just takes me a while to get the names out. Welcome to the show, Barbara. She is a member of our team, and she lives up in Upper Michigan. She actually was at your convention with us last year with Ken, or 2 years ago, last year, whatever, with Ken Gerhard and Charlie Raymond. See, names come to me. You just got to wait. Hello, Barb. Yep, see. Hello. Hi, Barb.
So, for question about near Rapid River, there's a history of reports on County Road 503 right by Rapid River. That's the edge of the national forest right there. And then Stonington, I've gotten a few reports from the Stonington Peninsula, which is just south of Rapid River, south and east. So yeah, there's reports near Rapid River.
Very good. Barbara was actually out winter camping this past weekend, and I think if I'm not mistaken, that's where you guys were, right, Barbara? We'll see if she answers. I know we were having a meeting and she was out camping in the woods, and yes, yep, that's where she was. So there you go. Stay warm, Barbara. Crazy people out there in the middle of winter. I wouldn't go camping in winter.
I don't winter camp either. I'm in the woods a lot less as soon as the snow starts to fall.
Yeah,
so I make
definitely.
I make it a point not to go and do research between November 15th and November 30th because it's rifle season. One, I don't want to accidentally be shot, but two is when I lived in Lower Michigan, I know the work that people put into their hunting area and their stands and everything else. And the last thing I want to do is someone saved up vacation time all year long to be able to take a week or 2 weeks off. I don't want to go bouncing through the woods on state land and mess up somebody's complete hunt for the whole week. So I'll usually, if I get the only time I'll go out during rifle season is if I get a report that's on private property and it's the property owner that contacted me. And I'll be like, okay, when do you hunt? What times do you hunt? Are you not hunting anymore?
Yeah.
And you'll be with me. And they're like, yeah, this is when and this is how, and we'll be waiting for you. So,
yeah, it seems like we get I get a few reports this past year as well of hunters out that have seen stuff, had their deer camp or whatever like vandalized and stuff, not by people obviously, but torn up and stuff like that. And I said, oh, great. Can you show me where it is? No, I'm hunting. You can't come out here. Okay, then why did you? Well, you really need to come out here and investigate this. All right, I'll be there this weekend. Oh, no, you can't come till next
No, not
year.
now. Yeah.
Well, all the evidence, the footprints, everything is going to be gone by then. Well, sorry. Okay. Well, that's a dot on the map. Thanks.
I've got a witness that he's seen things on his property. He's heard things on his property. I went and did a bunch of recording with them, voice recorders, and he offered to give me, he's like, you can have a key. He says, you just come and go as you please. I'm like, I don't need a key. I said, I'll park at the gate and I'll step over. Well, are you sure? It always seems to be here by halfway between the gate and the camp. I'm like, no, that's fine. I said, I'll walk. I said, if it is between the gate and the camp, I'm more likely to see it if I'm walking than if I'm driving anyways. So, but he's given me full rights to walk wherever I want, whenever I want. And if it's going to be during a hunting season, just to let him know. So
that's awesome.
That worked out well for being able to do some recordings. And he's actually, some of the footprint casts in my collection came from his property. that he went out and on some of their food plots found and cast. So
Very cool. So getting back to our stick structures and stuff like that.
Yep.
So what all have you found, and what do you think this stuff means? Have you been able to, gain any knowledge of things that you think means this, that means that, or why they're being built?
It's all up in the air. I have no idea what they mean. I thought I knew what some of them meant, like some of the stick structures, like the breaks, where you'll get it where it's not quite a 45-degree angle and it comes all the way to the ground. I used to think you stay on this side, we'll stay on this side is kind of what it meant.
Mm-hmm.
From a history of reports of trappers that had run traps on both sides of a game trail, and then they'd come through and all the traps from one side are busted off and all the trees were busted off in the same direction. Well, then I found a triangle of those trees that all pointed out if you stood in the middle of them. And I'm like, well, obviously it doesn't mean you stay over there and we're going to stay in here, because the triangle was small enough you could see all the trees that were snapped off. So it's interesting that it happens. It gives you an idea of hand dexterity and things like that, because some of the intricate structures that I've seen, there was a gentleman that had he's got pictures that this is one of those teasers. He has pictures that I don't have access to because he doesn't want to share them out to the public. But it's a 6-foot tall stockade fence behind his house. So the slats that run up and down and they're rounded over on the corners. 1.5 foot above that is a face. Clear as day, you can see the face. In his backyard, he kept finding small, real intricate weavings of vines and branches. Some of them still have live leaves in them. Some of it looked like it was older, that something stretched and pulled through. He found probably 5-6 of those, and he'd find footprints next to him where they laid them on his picnic table. But to think of how big their hands are, and then how intricate they can be with their hands, the dexterity that takes, or the breaks when they break and twist to make the break instead of just pushing over and snapping. So it's nice to study. I don't know that I'm ever going to find out what each one means.
Definitely. Yeah, it's also really interesting. You talk about the dexterity and stuff like that, and we've talked about how, like animals can't manipulate things. We have this unique feature of this opposable thumb here.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people, like Meldrum and stuff that study anatomy and that, our thumbs go out to the side and can go like this. But he believes that based on the prints and some of the other evidence that their thumb actually stays in line with the rest of the hand, that it all curls together. So they don't have this opposable thumb that we would think, and yet they're still able to manipulate stuff like that.
Yeah. One of the castings that I have came from Tom Shea down in Kentucky, and it is I don't know, it's the size of a serving platter, and it's a handprint just like this.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
The thumb's opposed.
Yeah, and see, I've seen stuff like that too, but I have a copy of the knuckle print.
The Freeman knuckles?
Yes. Yep. And I was trying to think of the guy's name. My brain doesn't work well. But yeah, the Freeman print.
The only reason I know they're the Freeman knuckles is I just saw the cat. Well, I just posted it to our Facebook page. The lady that I have making my silicone molds, she did an unmolding of the knuckles when she sent it back to me. So she posted a video of it. So that's the only reason that I know that they're the Freeman knuckles.
I was gonna say I thought I had it sitting over here, but I have the cripple foot casts sitting there. Yeah, more coffee needed. Definitely more coffee needed. I think that would help. Well, I didn't say this on air. I was out till 4:30 last night at a paranormal investigation. I got home at 5 a.m. and so that's why my brain probably doesn't work either. But that's why definitely more coffee needed. Yeah, I just got Michael Friedman's book,
Yep.
by Doug Hychek's Hanger whatever publishing company. I'm sorry. I just got that in the mail. Hanger something. I don't know. His publishing company that he's got, Doug Hychek, and they just put out this really cool like coffee table book. And it's Michael Freeman's book about his father's work, and it has all their casts and prints, and there's little QR codes in there, and you can scan them and listen to Paul Friedman, like interviews and stuff that he did, and like Meldrum discusses some of the casts and all that stuff. So it's available wherever you get books. Go find it.
I'm gonna have to pick that up.
It's pretty cool. I haven't gotten a chance to read through it yet and everything, but I've thumbed through it a couple times, and it looks pretty good. So
yep. For the people that are out there, your viewers and everyone that's listening, if you have a question, I'm an open book. It doesn't have to be Bigfoot related, and I'll try to answer it.
There you go. Awesome. Yeah. If you guys have any questions, put them over on the comment section of wherever you're listening, either YouTube. There's one. His name is pronounced like Lee. You're welcome to say my name aloud. Okay. Yeah. That's not a question, though. I got all excited. Whenever I hover over the comments over here, it just clicks show, so I can't read it. So I'm trying to go back, trying to read it and click on it at the same time, and it wasn't working there. So my producer Todd is on vacation this week, and that's why me and Renee's shows were the only ones that were on this week, and so I'm running my own show again today. So it's
producing, starring.
Yes. Ta-da. Very cool. So what you've got a lot of information, a lot of data from up in Upper Michigan. Yeah. Where would you say for people that want to go out and have an experience, and glad we're on. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the show. Where would you say is a good public area that people could go out and try and get an experience?
The place, the hottest spot I know is all of the Hiawatha National Forest. So okay. any of the campgrounds that are there are going to be a good place to start. Once you're in the campground, you just have to be observant. I guess like Pikes Lake, I think that's the name, or Pete's Lake is the name of it. That campground's probably a little less active for Bigfoot as some of the more rustic and rural campgrounds are. So you have to pick and choose your area. If you just want to go out, let's say you're a family that wants to take the kids out and you want to look for Bigfoot stuff, like the Hay Meadow Trails, it's a good place to go look. I'm not going to say you're going to see anything because of the traffic that goes through there. You may get something that comes in and decides it wants to check out the people that are walking through there. Walk at different times than what normal people hike, so you're a little more interesting than everyone else. So canoers, kayakers, see a lot of them on the Sturgeon River through the Hiawatha Forest. You'll come around a corner, there'll be one standing in the river. As many reports that I've gotten from the Sturgeon River and kayakers coming around a corner and running straight into a Bigfoot. I'm trying to figure out a way to send paper boats with GoPros down the river.
Well, yeah, that's a good idea. Definitely. I think that's a lot of, you don't see a lot of people talking about, boating and stuff. And we talk about the road crossings and stuff. And you and me that listen to a lot of stories and get the reports. We get a lot of it, but you don't hear a lot about that discussed as, finding Bigfoot. A lot of those are, I saw it across the road. You don't see a lot of episodes where they're like, well, we were going down the river, but that happens just as much because you don't have headlights. You don't have the road noise. So you're really quiet just coming along this river. and you have probably a better chance of seeing one that way than even just a road crossing.
Yeah.
We have one more question here. Let's see what we got. Do you gift? And if you do, what do you use? Do you think they are interested in things that smell different from native plants?
I don't gift, and I guess I warn people about gifting. And it's the people that have them on their property and they're like, oh, I have Bigfoot, so I've been putting out a 50-pound bag of dog food every week for them.
Yeah.
I caution against it, because what you're setting up is, if you move, now you have a Bigfoot that for the last 15 years has been being fed a 50-pound bag of dog food. All of a sudden that dog food's gone. And they come up to the house and they bang on the wall. Hey, you still in there? Not meaning any aggression by it, but more of a, are you still there? Is everything okay?
Mm-hmm.
Making sure that the person that lived there that was feeding them every week, not that they become dependent on it, because I mean that's not going to support a Bigfoot, but it was that snack that they got, and they got used to it being there. So I caution against any kind of gifting and any kind of, I guess, trying to call yourself a cohabitator and becoming dependent on them, or them becoming dependent on you. So as far as the things that smell different from native plants, I think that ties into their curiosity. It's just like when I've gone camping before and used a campground as bait. So it was a campground that had sightings in it, and I found a way that I could camp up and above it on another ridge. And I would sit at night with thermal and I'd watch the campground and then try to pick up things in between me and the campground. So they're curious in nature. So I think anything that smells a little different, they're going to be curious about to check out.
Definitely. I mean, they're living out there. They don't have TV or stuff to entertain them. So when people come out camping or there's something different in the area, that's their entertainment. That's their TV.
Yep.
Definitely. And good point. Good point on the food. It's always, any animal that you feed is going to become used to that, and there's going to be consequences if it stops. And I chuckle because the thought of the Bigfoot welfare check. Hey, you haven't fed me for a while. Is everything okay? I'm just checking in on you.
Right. I mean, and
that's what I want.
It could go completely the other way, where they come up and they're like, hey, you haven't fed me. I'm going to knock your house down.
Yep. Lee makes another good point here. I thought of an electric bike would be good when we were talking about going silent, and then silent like a boat. So yeah, I know Doug Hychek has sells electric bikes specifically for Bigfooting. They have really wide tires and mounts and stuff for GoPros and all that stuff, and so definitely something to think about.
Yeah, I've been telling my wife for a couple of years now that I want a fat tire bike, and she's like, you don't ride a regular bike.
But if it's electric, you don't have to do the work.
It doesn't even have to be electric. I just want a big tire bike.
I'm not going to ride it. I just want it sitting in the garage to look at.
Yeah, just hang it on the wall.
Definitely. Oh. Awesome. There we go. What was I going to say about that? The gifting interest. What were we talking about before the gifting? Native plants.
That's a good question.
Oh, I know. Have you noticed anything as far as fire? That fire draws them in certain areas, or have you had any kind of correlation between a fire and more activity?
I haven't seen any correlation between fire and Bigfoot. I mean, a lot of, I won't say a lot. There's enough sightings when people are sitting around a fire that I don't know that it's the fire that's bringing them in, though. It could be the sound of laughter and of people, so they're curious and they want to see what's going on, and then they get too close, because as the fire flares up, you'll catch them on the edge of the firelight. But I don't think it was the fire that brought them in. I think it was their curiosity about the people around it and the noise they were hearing. So, and as far as forest fires, I haven't I haven't seen or heard anything where people have caught them running out of the edge of a forest fire or coming in to inspected a forest fire. So, but it would be workers, the firemen and that, and a lot of times they don't want to say anything about it. So
Very good. Very good. All right, man. We are coming up on the end of the show here. So if you guys have any questions or comments, get them in now, and we'll try and get them in before we head out here. Thanks for all the questions and comments that you guys did put in the comments. That was very, very informative and awesome content here. So before we head out too, where can people find you? Do you have a website?
I don't have a website. As far as finding me, the easiest place to find me is facebook.com/UPBSRO. You can also look up my name, Rich Meyer, and you'll figure out which one is me. I don't shy away from adding Bigfooter. I used to try and keep everything separate, and it's a useless endeavor for me to try and keep my personal life separate from my Bigfoot life. So I've been adding people as they come on. As long as you don't look like a scam, you get added as a friend. So the Bigfoot Museum and our GoFundMe are both linked to facebook.com Midwest Bigfoot Experience, because we're gonna do some interactive things. We're gonna have basically a sandbox, and you'll be able to get your own casting material and cast your own footprint, or I may have some cutouts there, so you can make castings of cutouts. So
very cool.
Those are the easiest ways to get a hold of me. So
we didn't get to talk about your museum at all. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we can a little bit. I've been trying to get my wife for the last 8 years to agree to let me do some kind of museum close to our house, and she finally has caved in and decided that I can put a small museum up, because I just kept getting my entire track collection was in the back room of our house. Then people started sending me like all of the pop culture stuff. So I've got Bigfoot candies and Bigfoot soap and Bigfoot pictures. Then all the reports. I've got I've got a couple different maps that I have on pegboard already, where I've pinned locations. So she's finally decided that I can put the museum up. So I'm trying to run it all by donation. I'm going to run it off grid. So I've already got a lot of the parts to do that. I just got to finish with my land prep before I start going into looking for the building. I am trying to get it registered as a 501c3. We're already listed as a nonprofit company in Michigan. So now I just got to get the IRS to give me that 501c3. Then any donation made will be a tax write-off for whoever makes the donation. What I want to do with the money then, because everybody's like, oh, well, what do you want to do with the money from the museum then, if it's all tax-free? I want to turn it around into helping kids that decide to go to college for something in either conservation or biology, field research of some type, or even law enforcement that are going to go into being a DNR officer. I want to take part of that money and do that. And then I want to help fund other groups and help with other conferences, because we're always looking for that little bit extra, that little bit more to help put on a conference or get a better speaker. If I have a museum that is starting to make money off of it, the idea isn't to keep any of the money myself. It's to turn it right back around into our community, I guess, and to try and get our community out there. That's why I said the people that are going to law enforcement as DNR officers right now, there's not any of them that I don't, this is going to come out wrong. There's none of them owe us anything. So none of them want to help us. Yeah. Where if I get one DNR officer out there that, well, you guys gave me a scholarship to go to school and you helped with pay for my college. It's not so much that he owes us anything, but he might be a little more open to go, hey, local Bigfoot group, this is what I just saw. So
that's a good point. That's the long game right there.
yep.
I'll pay you to go to school to go look for Bigfoot, so you come and tell me about Bigfoot. That's the
Yep.
long game.
Yeah.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Now, your museum is not open yet.
No,
But
we're still building.
right, what like city area do you plan on having it, and where can people get more information to find
It'll
that?
be just outside of Hermansville, just off US 2. The road I live on is, I can hear US 2 from my front yard, but you can't see it. The road that drives by the front of my house is, they call it number 43 road. So it's real easy. You can come off on one side and get right back on the other side. It's almost like somebody made an exit ramp for US 2 that I live on. So it's the Facebook page for the museum is facebook.com/Midwest Bigfoot Experience. Because I'm going to do not just things from the UP. We're going to hit Wisconsin. I've got some stuff from Minnesota that some people are sending me. So I've got a guy down in Illinois that cast a bunch of tracks that he's said he's going to donate his entire track collection. So
I will have to get you copies of mine then.
Yeah.
I have a hand and a foot from in Wisconsin here.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually, my foot is from the Hidden Adventure in Upper Michigan. So there you go.
Okay. Yeah. And they might as well be neighbors. That's how close we are.
We are just about out of time here. I got 2 questions. I want to see if we can touch on them real quick. She thought that the gift would be good for like a crystal or some unusual rocks.
We've had some people bring crystals on Bigfoot expeditions. We've also had, when they bring crystals, we get more of what we're calling fairy lights, which are little tiny lights, not orbs that go through the woods, but little tiny lights that we'll see through the woods that alternate color back and forth. So that happens a lot over by Germfast, where we camp in one specific spot. So as far as unusual rocks, we've found some unusual rocks that have had some carvings in them in weird places, like the middle of a road, sitting in a tree that we've collected. So unusual rocks could work as well.
Very good. We've tried gifting rocks and gemstones and crystals up at the Hidden Adventure, and they didn't really go anywhere. So maybe Uperlite stones.
Yeah, with their eyes being bigger, and they may have the possibility to see into the infrared spectrum. The Uperlites may look entirely different to them than they do to us.
Uperlites glow under black light. For people who don't know, they go out and rock hunt them at night. There's too many comments here. They keep moving now. Would a Bigfoot hear the electric bike similar to a game camera?
It's possible. It put off an EMF, so if they're sensitive to it, they may sense the electric bike. But
and again, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say
you can ride a stationary bike and you'll put off your own EMF. So
yep, yeah. And with an electric bike or any bike, you have the gravel crunching or the substrate under you. Whereas on a boat, you would not. You would just hear the water, and the water also would kind of mask the sound of that. Corey says hi guys, how you doing? Bigfoot scholarship, and I like this one. Bigfoot like diamonds. So if you have any diamonds that you want to go throw out in the woods and just give away to Bigfoot, that's definitely you just let me know where that's going to be and I'll come investigate.
Can they tell the difference between diamonds and cut glass or cubic zirconia?
Yeah, well, I think you'll find out when the cubic zirconia gets chucked at your house later on that day. All right, guys, that is about our show for today. I think that's a good place to leave it here. Rich, you're fantastic, man. I would love to have you back on again for a third time and continue our discussion, because there's just so much stuff that we haven't even covered here. And maybe when this fall, come back when you get your museum set up and we can talk about that more. And
Yeah.
We'll get that. And if you do, I know we didn't even talk about your convention. If you decide to do the convention this year, I know you said that you were really busy. You were looking for some help with that as well. So if anybody's interested in helping you, with your research up there or helping run your convention or anything that they can help you out, go ahead and reach out to Rich. And he's got a great convention up there, a lot of great guests up in the past. And I know we were part of it 2 years ago, and we were going to be part of it this year, but then it didn't happen. So, but, awesome.
Yep.
One last
again.
time.
I'm always open to being on. So
awesome. One last time, what is your Facebook page and people for the museum and your group?
It's it's facebook.com/UPBSRO or Midwest Bigfoot Experience.
Very good. And the name of the convention?
It's the UP Bigfoot Conference.
There you go. And what didn't happen this year? Do you think you're going to have it this year or probably not?
I really want to. I don't want to see it die because of me being busy with other endeavors, but I've got to find somebody that wants to take a brunt of the running it. So
yeah, with all your research and working on the museum, you had said before that you just weren't having time to work on it. So if anybody wants to step up, if you're from Upper Michigan and have an interest in Bigfoot and have some experience running conventions, maybe hit you up.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait to talk to you again, and hopefully we get to see you up there, and we'll keep in touch. If you get anything for me, let me know, and I'll do the same.
Will. All right. Thank you.
Yep. I have to find my end credits here. Hang on. All right, guys. That is our show for this week. Until next time, we'll see you out there.